Hey guys, it's Daniel. Welcome back.
Nirvana's most notable drummer prior to Dave Grohl was Chad Channing. In my opinion, Chad Channing absolutely should have been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame alongside Dave, Krist, and Kurt, but that's a discussion for another time. In any case, Nirvana officially had a total of 6 drummers in their lineup over the years: Aaron Burkhard, Dale Crover, Dave Foster, Chad Channing, Dan Peters, and Dave Grohl. However, there is unofficially a 7th Nirvana drummer. This would be Bob McFeden. In all the Nirvana biographies that I've read and documentaries I've seen over the years, there's not one mention of Bob McFeden I've come across. This is likely due to the fact that Bob's involvement with the band was very brief and very early on. The band that would become Nirvana officially formed in 1987. Bob's involvement with the group took place in 1986, before its official formation. The only substantial information I've come across about Bob McFeden was from the website nirvanalegacy.com. The transcript of an interview with Bob McFeden by journalist Nick Soulsby is posted on this website. I'm going to read to you that interview here. Later in this video, I'm going to show you my interview with Nirvana's first official drummer, Aaron Burkhard. This interview I did took place in Kurt Cobain's hometown of Aberdeen in front of Kurt's childhood home. But first, here's the Bob McFeden interview. Quote, "I grew up in Aberdeen. That's where I went to elementary school and high school. This was pre-grunge movement, and though there were a few punk rockers around Aberdeen, most of us were in cover bands and doing covers of Zeppelin, some of the old rock and roll. That's what we were getting together and rehearsing, and then we go out and play the parties. I never envisioned myself as a musician, but then 7th grade jazz band came along and I was asked to play the drums. Never studied it, but I was asked, so I got up there and kept the beat. I guess I got bit by the bug. It just intrigued me, and I ended up getting a kit, then hanging out with a bunch of people, the Dale Crovers, the Aaron Burkhards. There was just a little clique of us who hung around and jammed a lot. Chris Novoselic's brother, Robert, me and him started a thing with a guy named Evan Archie and ended up doing a lot of parties. So, I was always going over to Chris and Robert's house to do some rehearsing, which is how I met Chris. There weren't many venues up there. We were really young, still in high school, not really thinking about that as a career. Now, fast forward a bit, I'm still hanging out with Robert while Chris was actually playing guitar for us in that little cover group. I got approached by Chris late in my senior year, maybe right after, and that's when he asked me to come hang out with him at Maria's hair salon and sit in with him and Kurt. The hair salon was operated by Chris Novoselic's mother Maria, and the top floor of the building is where Kurt and Chris would rehearse. I didn't actually know Mr. Cobain very well. I'd seen him around some of the parties and some of the scene, but he was a pretty quiet, reserved guy. So, I was asked by Chris to come and sit in so I can meet them at Maria's hair salon. I was only there for a few short weeks, and that's why you won't see me in a lot of the publications, because I was only involved pre-Nirvana, in the really early stuff. It was brief, just a few weeks of me going over, and we'd rehearse 2-3 times a week. I have to be honest, I just didn't get it. I didn't get what they were trying to do, unfortunately. Because a couple of years later, they're properly produced and they're Nirvana, of course. I didn't get it. I didn't understand the movement that was taking place. It is what it is. Back then, it wasn't all put together nice and neat in the studio. It was pretty raw. I didn't get what they were doing. I was used to doing cover tunes, and this was all brand new to me. Then I had to make a decision. I was talking to my girl, who became my wife, Mrs. Tina McFeden. She was asking me what my plans were. Are you going to work and have a family, or are you going to go out on the road? And at that point, I had to make a decision. Did I want to go do this music thing, or was I going to raise a family and join the working class? I'm really glad I chose the path I did, because I have 2 beautiful daughters, Kayla and Kenzie, a good career, and I still know some people in the industry, so bonus. Had I chosen that rock and roll path, I may not be here today talking to you. If you go into it thinking of it as a job in an industry, I think you're a little better off, but some of us get a glorified vision of what it's about. Today, that's how I think of it. People getting together and making this product and then putting it out into the market, then you go out and play it to show it off. But back then, that's not how I felt, and that wasn't my vision of what rock and roll was about. But yeah, at that point, all of us had a vision that this could go somewhere. We all wanted to go do that until I had that discussion with my girlfriend and got some perspective on it. Everybody we were hanging around was trying to break out. End quote. Nick Soulsby then asked the following question. So, it was known locally that you were a drummer and Krist approached you around the time you finished high school? Bob responds with the following. Yeah, I was still playing with Evan Archie. He was now the guitar player in the band, and Robert Novoselic, Krist's little brother. We were doing some things, starting to play small clubs, couple of wedding receptions, that type of thing. Very semi-professional stuff. And Krist just came up to me and said one day, hey, I got this guy, you want to get together? And I was just, sure, I'm up for anything. So that was it. We got together. Like I said, it was just a brief thing, 3 or 4 week deal, and I bowed out gracefully and off they went. It was 1986, a long time ago, so it's after graduation in June, but I'm guessing we definitely started off around summertime, sometime around August. Chris and Kurt had some material written, but they needed someone to help out on the drum track portion of it. So they definitely wanted some input. Like I said, I don't recall all of it, but they had songs and I just didn't understand what they were trying to do. Kurt seemed in charge of what was happening. Chris would always give his input even when we were doing cover songs before this. Chris had great vision. I was always able to envision him producing things because he had a lot of good insight. But Cobain was the driving force. I'd call it a democratic process just with a leader. We all got our say. I've listened to a lot of Nirvana, but I don't recall anything that I'd played on at that time. Nothing I remember. End quote. Nick asks the following question. Maria's hair design was the only place you practiced, or were there other places? Bob responds, quote, for this particular thing, it was Maria's. Before that, Chris was part of what we were doing at his house. I remember Kurt showing up a few times there, playing some covers. But this period at Maria's was geared towards a particular thing which was putting together what their vision was. I think they were trying to put this thing together to go do what they did, but unfortunately, I couldn't see that. Kurt and Krist played together comfortably. I'd say they were very comfortable with each other. I remember they had a Tascam 4-track recorder hung up with one microphone, right in the center of the room, so they could do some playbacks. They seemed serious about what they were doing. Question from Nick. Do you remember a day where it felt right, where it felt like, yes, we could do this? Bob's answer. I don't recall. Typically, people only remember the worst, but I'm sure there were points where we gelled as musicians and it felt right, it felt good. But I don't remember contributing anything specific. I'm the kind of guy who would have said something if I'd had something to add, but it's a long time ago and I don't remember. Worth asking though, you might jog a memory or two. It was quite a serious time commitment at the time, pretty organized. They knew where they wanted to go and it was pretty well structured. So they'd put some thought in before they contacted me and made sure they had their material together. Personally, I'd taken a little bit of time off of music in order to finish and graduate high school. So in that time, I think they were getting together and pre-rehearsing it. Because that was what Chris said when he first spoke to me about it, that they had stuff ready and they wanted to see if I could get it worked up. I think they wanted to find a drummer so they could go to a studio, record a demo, then go do the clubs. It definitely seemed they had a vision. I didn't practice outside of playing with them because my drum kit stayed there at Maria's, so it was just about showing up and playing when we got together. Bottom line, I just remember that they were working well together and I think that they had a vision. End quote. Nick then asked the following. Do you remember the kinds of covers you were playing together at the time while you were at Maria's? Answer from Bob. Just the classic rock and roll. Sunshine of Your Love was on our list for sure. Mustang Sally. That was one of Chris Novoselic's favorites, but that's because he was playing a Fender Mustang around that time, which is likely why he liked it so much. You'd never think it when you see him stepping out with the bass in his hands, or now when he's doing the political stuff. You'd never know he could be a quiet guy. I don't think he ever wanted to be a frontman. End quote. Question from Nick. How did things end? Answer from Bob. I recall having that conversation with them. We rehearsed and I cut that off a little early and said, hey, I need to talk to you guys. I've made a decision. And then I broke the news to them, packed up my kit, and went home. I didn't just leave them hanging in the wind, however. Personally, I wish I had the recordings just for memorabilia's sakes. I know a gentleman who does. I don't know if it was my recordings at Maria's, but he just sold them back to the Cobain estate. I don't personally have anything from that time frame. End quote. Question from Nick. Did you learn back then that Aaron took over sometime around November or December? Answer from Bob. I actually didn't know about Aaron until just recently, literally a couple of years ago. I didn't discover that Aaron had been a big part of that until some of the stuff with him on it got released. I see now he's back in the scene. He's playing with some fellas and doing that. Good for him. I'm glad to see him back out. I know that at one point I harbored a few feelings just out of jealousy, just because I'd not become part of what happened to them. But I worked through all of that really well. But I know some people in the area, people in the scene who went through a lot of dark stuff because of what happened to Nirvana and had a degree of envy because they weren't part of that. It's weird when you're friends with somebody and suddenly they're famous and you're not. It's human, but most of us move on, and I definitely have. I didn't stay in touch with Krist or Kurt once things started happening to them. I'm still in touch with Robert, Krist's brother. I'd love to have a cup of coffee with Krist to see where he's at in life, but I don't want to feel like I'm intruding, given how much he must get contacted by people already. End of interview. As mentioned earlier, I previously did an interview with Nirvana's first official drummer, Aaron Burkhard. I'm going to show you that video now. After this interview, I also want to show you a video I did about Maria's hair design. I visited the location during the same trip where I interviewed Aaron Burkhard in Aberdeen. First, here's the Aaron interview. All right, guys, so I am here with Aaron Burkhard. We just happened to bump into each other on the road. Aaron, thank you so much for your time.
No problem.
Appreciate it. So, when did you first meet Kurt?
I met Kurt in '86. I lived across the alley from Dale Cobra, drummer for the Melvins. And I used to go to practice all the time. Dale right across the alley. And that's where Kurt and Chris. Kurt used to hang out there a lot. And Kurt and Chris showed up one day and asked me to play drums. I didn't have no drums, so we went out to my buddy Sam Layton and we got enough drums. We were set up in Kurt's living room that night.
That's so cool. You remember what the first songs were that you played?
Yeah. It was one of the first songs we wrote were, I believe it would be Floyd the Barber, Mexican Seafood, Hairspray Queen, Stank True. There was we did a couple covers. We did Thieves, Tramps, and Thieves by Sonny and Cher, right?
Sonny and Cher?
Yeah, and Chris sang that song.
So do you have a favorite song that you were involved with Nirvana?
Probably Pen Cap Chew.
Pen Cap Chew was your
favorite. Yeah, that was
one?
a second name also. Second name is the band. We already had the song called Pen Cap Chew. But then we played a midnight show. In Olympia. And the next day, I told Kurt I'd come unload the gear in the morning. It was so late. And when I got to his house, he had painted the big... Is that Jillian? That's Jillian Garr. She's more famous than me.
Yeah.
Hi, Jillian.
The last two times I'm in Aberdeen, I was thinking about you. We were down at the landing, and I thought, gee, I should have told Aaron we were coming.
I met Lee, who bought the house, and he let me. He didn't take me inside because he wanted to show Wendy and Kim first.
Entertain Us is one of the best books.
But
well, thank you.
There's a few songs that you played on, like demos that are on some of the box sets, right? If I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. Which songs are those?
Heartbreaker, Mrs. Butterworth, Hairspray Queen. Well, Incesticide, there's 5 songs on Incesticide that my lawyer is checking right now. That was drummer when they were created. Mm-hmm. A couple songs on Bleach.
When you're in front of this house, do you ever think about Kurt?
No, I didn't know Kurt when he lived here. I used to hear the guitar sometimes when I walked through the alley, but that was about it. But I knew Kurt when he lived over here. This house not there anymore.
Yeah, it's not. I checked it out this morning. Yeah, it's been demolished completely.
Yeah, it's been gone like 15 years.
Yeah, it's too bad.
But that's where Kurt lived the whole time I was jamming with him.
So how did you join Nirvana? Like, how did that begin?
It was at a Melvin's practice. Kurt and Chris asked me to be the drummer. We were pretty tight, and we caught on fast.
If you'd be comfortable talking about it, what happened to that? Like, how come you left the band?
They had gotten Dave Foster to play drums, and one day Chris called me up, and Dave was arrested or something, so they wanted me to join back in the band. So they came pick me up, and I hate telling the story because it's really
no, whatever you're comfortable with.
No, it's fine. And my dad's a merchant marine, so I left Kurt wanted to listen to our practice that night. So we went to my dad's, and my dad was on shift. So I left Kurt there, and I was just going to run up to the store and grab a 6-pack and come back. Well, I had been drinking all practice. It's not like I took the car and went up and got drunk, you know. I just stopped and had a drink, barely half a drink. right? And boom, I was back in the car, but I was already drunk from practice, from drinking practice.
Yeah.
And I got pulled over. Yeah, and I left Kurt sitting in my dad's place for like 4 or 5 hours. He didn't know what was going on. There's no phone, so I called Krist, and Krist came and got me because they were looking to release me. 5 hours later, the car got impounded.
Jeez.
And in hindsight, it's 2020. I tell you. And if I would have known what was going to happen a year and a half later, I would have groveled. But as it was, he fired me then. That was the last straw.
So, if you don't mind me asking, when Nirvana really took off, how did you react to that? Like, were you like?
Everybody wants to think I was all upset and jealous. I wasn't. I was happy. I was thrilled to death. You know, because I was already, I was part of it. You know, and I was happy for him because I knew exactly what he wanted to do, and he did exactly what he wanted to do. He hated all the metal bands. He hated that cock rock, I call it. He hated them guys. He hated the mainstream. And like Tom Petty said, one swoop with the sickle, farmer just cut them all down. And I know he loved that to death. You know.
Do you have a favorite Nirvana song?
Yeah, probably would be Drain You.
Drain You is your favorite one? So what was it like a Nirvana practice like in the early days? Like what was the vibe? Was it really serious? Were you guys goofing around?
It's serious. Bye guys.
Really nice to meet you.
Take care. It was serious. Kurt, we play when we win the song, we played the same song over and over all day.
Did you ever like break anything when you were playing with them?
Yeah, I break sticks all the time. So I'm a rock drummer. I hit them like they owe me money. I hit the drums hard, and they break sticks. But, I can play with a broken stick until the next song.
So you mentioned you were friends with the Melvins too, right?
Yeah.
When Dale Crover was playing in Nirvana, did you have any contact with him? Like, did you know that he was in the band?
Yeah.
That's cool.
It was just you weren't anybody, back in then. We'd play shows up at Coleman Olympia, but there was nothing special about it. We were just rock band. We were a rock band, That's it. And now you think of Nirvana now with the fame and everything, but back then it was, we were just regular guys, regular band, There was
cool.
Hindsight is 2020, like I said.
Yeah. Did you ever meet Chad Channing at all?
Yeah, I'm friends with Chad. Yeah, I've met him a few times.
That's cool. Do you remember the first time you met Chad?
Yeah, it was at we were opening for them at the Hope Eagles.
With Attica was opening for Nirvana?
Yeah, that's when I first met Chad. And they came by my house and hung out for a while. Yeah, that's when I met Chad.
So for you, what is your personal goal with music right now?
It's just keep playing. I'm pretty. I still have my chops. I still play every day. Play every day. Play my drums every day, and it's not so much. Maybe make a few bucks, but I can live without a few bucks. It don't matter, I just did an interview with this film company from Berlin, and they're coming out with it's called Rock Bottom, Songs with No Money. It's about musicians, 5 musicians. I'm one of them, and they, still chasing the dream, basically.
So if I may ask, do you have any regrets from your time with Nirvana at all? What is your regret?
I regret stopping at that bar and getting a drink and getting pulled over. Of course, I regret that. I learned I was an alcoholic. I don't drink now, but back then, alcohol destroyed. It sucked up my. I probably would have been with them when they made it big. I probably wouldn't have got that DWI into its car. But I can't change that, and I just got to live with it, and I'm good with that. I regret it. That's a very big regret. I regret stopping at that bar. On the way home, I shouldn't have. But what you can do, I can't change it. I just got to live with the present now, and I'm comfortable with being a member of Nirvana. There's 5 other drummers, It's like, but I'm the original. So
that's awesome. Thank you so much for your time, man. I really, really appreciate it. Hey guys, today I want to take a look at some of the locations where Nirvana would practice and jam throughout Aberdeen. Most of these places still exist today, even though one of them has been completely demolished. This patch of grass was the first house that Kurt had rented on his own. I'll be talking a little bit about that later on in the video. But for now, let's start off with this building over here. This pink building is the old location of Maria's hair design in Aberdeen, which was run by Krist Novoselic's mother, Maria. Krist Novoselic and Kurt Cobain both went to Aberdeen High School and became friends while attending Melvin's practices. Kurt wanted to start a band with Krist, but Krist wasn't initially on board. It wasn't until a few months after Kurt Cobain and Dale Crover's 1986 Fecal Demo Matter was recorded that Krist Novoselic reciprocated and told Kurt he wanted to start a band. An empty apartment above Maria's hair design was used as their rehearsal space. Now, before I go further, I want to mention that I did speak with 2 of the tenants living here, and they both said they were cool with me taking a few shots of the building, so thank you to them. As mentioned in my other videos, these Nirvana locations are all public domain info, but whenever possible, I think it's still good practice to ask before filming. The location of this building is on 107 South Main Street in Aberdeen, and if you look at Google Maps, you'll see that it actually used to be green, so who knows what color it may have been when Nirvana was here. But more importantly, there is a little confusion at times about exactly which part of the building the rehearsals took place in. As mentioned, the rehearsals took place in an apartment above Maria's hair design, but which apartment? Although this is a relatively small building, there are actually 2 separate apartments on the first floor, 107A and 107B. The same may be true for the top floor. I asked the 2 tenants if they knew where in the building Nirvana rehearsed, and they both said at the back, which would suggest that they practiced in the apartment above 107B. From the looks of it, however, it appears like it's just 1 apartment on the entire top floor, not 2, but that's not entirely clear. It could be that the entire back half of the building is 107B and the entire front half is 107A, so this particular point does require further clarification, but regardless of exactly where on the top floor of this building the rehearsals took place, what we do know definitively is that they did take place somewhere on the top floor. Now, the location for the old Maria's hair design building is just off of the main street, which runs through downtown Aberdeen. The main street in Aberdeen is Wishka Street. The old Maria's hair design building is located on South M Street, just to the right of Wishka. I should mention, by the way, that if you are planning on visiting Aberdeen, make sure to note that Wishka is a one-way street. Leaving my hotel, I almost turned the wrong way onto Wishka straight into traffic before thankfully remembering it's a one-way, so just keep that in mind if you are planning on visiting. As mentioned a little earlier, Krist and Kurt became friends while attending Melvin's practices. Those practices predominantly took place at this house. This is Dale Crover's old house in Aberdeen. I won't be listing the address for this house in this video, but again, it's all public domain info listed in the Nirvana biographies. And speaking of biographies, it does say in some of the Nirvana biographies, as well as in the Aberdeen Museum of History website, that during one of Kurt's periods of homelessness, he slept in a cardboard box on Dale Crover's porch. Now, as you can see, there isn't really a porch here, it's just steps, so this may have been renovated since then, or it could have actually been these steps that they are referring to as a porch, or there might be a porch in the back that's not clear, but regardless, according to these bios and according to the actual Museum of History website for Aberdeen, it does say that he did sleep here, so that is definitely noteworthy. Interestingly, Dale Crover's old house is just a few minutes walking distance from the old Maria's hair design building. So, in other words, Nirvana's main practice space and the Melvins' main practice space were only a few minutes walking distance from each other. Another cool thing is that there actually is some video footage of Nirvana practicing at the Maria's hair design building back in 1988. Nirvana's lineup at the time of the recording consisting of Kurt Cobain, Krist Novoselic, and Chad Channing. Krist Novoselic's brother, Robert Novoselic, is actually the one who recorded the video, and it was released as part of the With the Lights Out box set. 4 of Nirvana's other friends were also present at the practice session: Ben Latin, Steve Newman, Senad Begovic, and Ryan Egner. Ryan having been an early manager for Nirvana, who was also responsible for arranging Nirvana's debut concert in Raymond, Washington. If you'd like to see the video I made about the history of that first ever Nirvana performance, the link is available in the description box below. The songs Nirvana performed at this practice session were Love Buzz, Scoff, About a Girl, Big Long Now, Immigrant Song, which is a Zeppelin cover of course, Spank Through, Hairspray Queen, School, and Mr. Moustache. Now, as discussed earlier, one of Kurt Cobain's former houses was completely torn down. The house address was 1000 East 2nd Street, just a few minutes walking distance from the famous Cobain house on East 1st Street. The East 2nd Street house, which again no longer exists, was the first house that Kurt Cobain rented on his own. It was a very small house, often compared to a shack, but nevertheless still a house. Kurt lived there in parts of 1986 and 1987, and it was a place where Nirvana used to jam. As a matter of fact, the recording of Miss Butterworth, which appears on the With the Lights Out box set, was recorded at this location. Furthermore, It was also a location where the Melvins practiced, so if you guys want to be able to stand on the spot where Kurt, Krist, and Aaron Burkhard recorded Miss Butterworth, and one of the places where the Melvins used to practice, now's your chance because as of the time of this recording, in September of 2020, there's nothing there but grass. Perhaps the city or someone else may intend on putting something there at some point, but for now, it's just grass. A quick note on Miss Butterworth, by the way, the song was actually an untitled track. Kurt Cobain did not name the song Miss Butterworth. It's believed that Nirvana's management company came up with the title Miss Butterworth before including the song on the 2004 With the Lights Out box set. One other thing I want to show you guys is that 1 minute walking distance up the street from where this house used to be is a thrift shop. If that thrift shop was around at the time Kurt was living here, I can imagine it being a place Kurt would have enjoyed visiting. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like what you see, make sure to subscribe for more. All the videos on this channel are original. I'm the one conducting all the interviews and editing all the videos together, so if you guys like what you see and you want to support, the best way to do so is honestly just to subscribe. Lots more to come.